Spending some time as an assistant will give you a lot of information that I don't think you can get anywhere else. You know, I'll work for you for free. I just want to see what's going on. And all these things have nothing to do with any notes on the page yet. Above everything is music, and if it's not brilliant, you're not great. 20, 30 years ago, the way was to kind of pair up with an up-and-coming director and kind of become indispensable to that director by providing, you know, really unique and expressive music and kind of growing with them through their career. And I'm sure that avenue is still possible. I mean, I think Damien Chazelle and Justin Horowitz, I hope I'm not butchering those names, but the guys that did La La Land, and then before that, Whiplash, that they're that story, you know, Elfman and Tim Burton and all that kind of pairings, Hitchcock and Bernard Herrmann. But I think it's probably something that doesn't happen as often or as regularly as it did back in the day. And I do think an apprenticeship with a composer that is working is a great way to kind of start out, because you're not in the hot seat from the get-go. You know, you're able to kind of be a fly on the wall and see the process, but not be the one going through the process. And so the stress isn't firmly on your shoulders, but you can see what things are stressful and what things to look out for, maybe when it is your time to be in the hot seat. And the other thing that it gives you is a chance to kind of learn about so much of this stuff. This composing for media gig is not about the actual composition. It's about, you know, being a somewhat of a therapist or an emotional interpreter for a director or producer, and kind of getting under their skin and seeing what it is they really want to convey with a particular scene or a piece at large. And not only doing that, but being a politician and being able to handle notes from one set of people in charge and another set of people in charge, and being able to communicate and being able to kind of put your ego aside when they hate everything, and you still kind of have to show up for work and give them options, get them kind of excited about a direction. You have to be a salesman, you know, to a certain degree. And all these things have nothing to do with any notes on the page yet. It's and you can be an amazing composer of music and still not get anywhere in your career path, because you haven't had the skills that I've just talked about. Like, you haven't nurtured those parts of the job. And as boring as that stuff is, it's really important. So seeing someone else who's practiced in doing all of those things and successful enough at it to keep getting work is really a good learning experience. You start out, you know, not writing music, but you gain all these kind of abstract skills and talents and ways to read people and ways to read situations that you're inevitably going to be seeing for the first time, because you've not worked in film before or TV before. So there are so many good reasons to being an apprentice. And the other thing is the composer is usually, if you do have all those tasks and you write good music, and people start to realize it, then you start working a lot more than you ever thought you would, and you have more projects than you thought you would, and you can't do it all yourself. And then you start giving works to your assistant to do, because you simply have to try and keep up with the business that's coming in. And so it's a great way for you as a young composer to cut your teeth on your first project that might not be, the tent pole thing that the composer's working on, but it's your own, like an example of that with me is Hans. After working with Hans for several years, he invited me to work with him on Through the Wormhole, which was a Morgan Freeman Science Channel show, and it was an amazing opportunity that I would not have had had I not been assisting him, and had he not got so busy that he needed someone that was interested in science and knew something about music too, to kind of help him out with. So I'd say it's a fine idea to even if you don't stay on the assistant to composer path, spending some time as an assistant will give you a lot of information that I don't think you can get anywhere else. When I started out, I was really lucky in that film composing wasn't kind of a cult of, it wasn't, it's become a more desirable thing to do, I think, than it was when I was starting out. And it was, even though it's still rather niche, it's actually fairly visible. There weren't amazing sample content back in the day. I mean, there was like Dan Dean Brass, which was, even though it was amazing for the time, that was like the only game in town. That was your brass, unless you sampled your own or whatever. And now you have people in the game like yourselves and so many other product developers creating these wonderful libraries, and it's because there's a demand for people want to do this job. When I started out, I was in college. I saw a film when I was on vacation with my family called 13 Conversations About One Thing. And the score for it was brilliant. And I thought it must be Thomas Newman, because Thomas Newman is amazing. And I knew him and John Williams. I didn't know anyone else really. And it said on the credits, Alex Werman. I said, oh, who's this guy? He's, really, really great. And it was the summer of my junior year, and I reached out to him via email and said, I'll work for you for free. I just want to see what's going on, because you're doing something really great with what you're writing. And he got back to me. I mean, it's amazing that just taking that step of reaching out to someone. I mean, I also sent an email to Thomas Newman's agent or something. I'm sure it got lost in a pile somewhere. But I actively sought out people that I really respected their music and wanted to just find a way into the world that I wanted to be a part of. And so Alex was really gracious, and I hung out in Los Angeles for the summer and saw him working on Logic, and he was doing all these kind of great things with computers and software and just the whole job, just being a fly on the wall for that summer, it sold me on the idea of trying to do this for a living. And I think if you follow your kind of gut and just try and meet people, you'll know if someone is a generous soul or someone that is maybe a bit more guarded and you might not learn as much from. I think you just have to take the initial step of reaching out to someone. So much of what I see on like VI Control, that forum, the online forum, is like these people that above everything is music, and if it's not brilliant, you're not great. And it's just, it's not the job of a film composer to be a Beethoven or a Mozart or this kind of iconic, if it happens while you're writing a film, obviously you want to do good music as a composer, but the function of a composer is to serve the story and create something unique that kind of blends with the images and the narrative in a way that enhances the emotional experience for the viewer. And so little of that has to do with it being a symphony. It doesn't need to be this kind of just beautiful piece. And I think that it's something that people don't realize, is that they need to invest in these other parts of the job, in this kind of being able to deal with people and being able to kind of well, now I'm repeating myself, but being a fly on the wall in like these kind of more stressful situations, and going through production and kind of seeing, okay, this is when you have enough money to hire an orchestra, and you kind of are. Coming from an informed place is always a good thing. I mean, where there's high risk, there's high reward. You could wing it and double down and say, this is how I write music. If you want to work with me, here's my number. But I'd say for the vast majority of people, coming up through someone that's maybe more established is a great learning experience. And I remember when I first got here, there was the USC Thornton School of Music, scoring film certificate program. And I thought, that's a lot of money, but I really want to learn about this stuff. Maybe I should go. And I also, through Alex Werman, he said, Media Ventures, it was Media Ventures at the time, before it was remote. And he said that it was a great learning environment, and that it's really tough to get in there. So, and he introduced me to some people that he knew from there, because he hung around there a long time ago. But it occurred to me when I started assisting these composers that getting a minimum wage and learning on the job was arguably better than spending $20,000 or whatever it was at the time, and sitting in a classroom and learning from someone that's not actively working. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But you could be learning some outdated approaches and techniques, or you can, really hunker down and eat top ramen or something and live in a studio apartment and get an internship for someone that is currently working and learn and grow that way. That it seemed like an obvious choice at the time to kind of go with the earning a bit of money than spending some. Yeah.